Hi, everyone. Welcome to 2025, dawn of the new age. I don't know. I guess we could just call it age of reality, age of rebellion. I don't know. What do you think we should call this?
I'm not sure yet. See it rolling. I have
Are
mixed
you not as
feelings.
excited as I am? I am so excited. I don't know if I've been in this good a mood since Trump won the election.
I'm really excited about certain things. I'm really trepidatious about other things. I'm much happier than I would be if Harris had won and was taking power right now. But yeah, I'm always more cynical about the ruling class than most people.
I mean, it's not like, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that I feel it's not, I don't think that it's that I feel excited about the ruling class. I just am like, I mean, I don't think this is the same. I know that whatever, the people who like to be the most cynical ones on the internet are like, they're all the same. I mean, whatever. People that I respect
Yeah.
say that. I shouldn't say that mockingly. Like Jimmy Dore says that. They're all the same. It's no different. But it is different. Like this is like a fuck you administration. Like this is something that, the powers that be, like the elites, the actual elites, not the politicians, the actual elites couldn't control. Like I'm in the position of thinking that the last election when Biden won was rigged.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where all those extra votes came from. I think that
11
Trump got
million.
set up for this coup thing
Yeah.
so that then leftists, progressives, all the old feminists we used to engage with who keep sending me
Mm-hmm.
emails on the internet telling me that I've lost my mind. Like I think that he got set up. I think that J6 was BS. I
Oh,
think they
yeah.
did that on purpose to discredit him and to try to throw him in jail. Like, I think this was a legit election. I mean,
I think it was a legit election. I think I really don't understand the hype around January 6th. I also don't understand why any civil libertarians think it's okay that those people have been locked up for 4 years, many in solitary confinement for protesting against the government. I don't think it was that big of a deal as I think there's so much hype around it. Yeah, January 6th is a whole other issue. It really upsets me
political
when
prisoners.
yeah,
Like they're
yeah.
actual, like, did any of those people kill anybody? Are the people who got, like, I don't think the people who got locked up did anything violent. Like, I think that a lot of them, I don't know the details on every single one that was imprisoned, but I know that at least a lot of them were just there and kind of wandered in. I don't even think knowing that they were doing something
Mm-hmm.
illegal.
Well, many of them were rounded up afterwards. Their families turned them in. Their neighbors turned them in.
Right.
They no, they didn't do anything I thought was so egregious. It wasn't like, what was it, back in the late 60s that the Puerto Rican independence activists stormed the Capitol and opened fire in Congress and shot sitting members of Congress. That was pretty over the top, right? Like, that's a big deal, and they went to jail for that. I think that they did murder several people. No, this just seemed different. It seems we all saw the feds open the door, invite them in, not do anything about it. The only person who died was a woman who was a Trump supporter who was shot in the chest in the Capitol. And I guess, for some reason, the left thinks that's fine. No, I'm not. I'm not unhappy. I'm interested in how history is unfolding. I'm so excited about the executive order on gender. I read it and I almost cried. I thought, oh my God, Meghan, we won. Like, the TERFs won. Some brilliant lawyerly TERF wrote a TERF manifesto, and it's an executive order now, and the law of the land and in terms of
It's
federal law.
perfect. It's so good. It's amazing. May Mailman, is that the name of the woman who wrote it?
I don't even know who wrote it, but she has
Okay.
my undying love and respect now.
I believe that it is a young woman named May mailman, but yes, that's correct. She is the former legal director at the Independent Women's Forum.
Ah.
And now she's in a role at the White House.
It was brilliant and it was beautiful, and it was about protecting women's dignity and privacy and sex-based rights. It wasn't written in this right-wing male language of there are only two genders and that men are men and women are women and get in your lane. It was really it was a TERF manifesto. I loved reading it. And I sat with it. I'm like, oh my God, did we just win? Did we really just win on this level?
Yeah, I know. Well, I just think I think that transgenderism is over. Like, as a political ideology. I mean, obviously, people will still be messing around with their bodies via surgeries and hormones and all of that. You know, transhumanism isn't over, but I think that the idea, like gender identity ideology, I think is dumb. And like one of the most thrilling aspects of that reality is that I'm just like, you guys are going to be so embarrassed. Like everything that you have been pretending to believe for the past 5 or maybe 10 years is bullshit. You knew it was bullshit. You know, the majority of the people who were advocating and defending gender identity ideology knew full well that a man can't become a woman. But they were going along with it because they're cowards or because they wanted to virtue signal on the internet. They wanted to like maintain their in crowds. They, you know, or maybe they thought it was the nice thing to do and say. But either way, they're full of shit that you like. Either at this point you're dumb, like you're a fucking idiot, or you're a liar. Or you're just a coward. I think all of these people are going to feel like idiots. Like, and it almost feels like if somebody had planned this out, like God, I don't know, whoever planned this out as like a test to just see who would go along and then pull the rug out from underneath them and be like, haha, just joking. You guys are so embarrassing. Like you guys all acted like clowns and you went along with the most ridiculous charade in all of history. You fucking idiots. And you owe me a fucking apology.
Right. They really do. It's so beautiful though, just having been in this fight for over a decade, watching, you know, the handful of women who saw it first, like hash out the arguments, really, really put our minds to it of exactly what's the problem with this. How do we logically explain to people how dangerous this is, why it's a problem, why it's ridiculous. And to see that become a federal executive order, I can see how it all built on itself. And I'm really excited about it. I hope you're right. I know the New York Times last week had that poll that said the vast majority of Americans are fed up with it. And
the vast majority of Canadians don't believe it either. I mean, well, I shouldn't say vast. I should say the majority of Canadians.
Yeah. What do you think
is still lagging behind a bit? But I mean, today, I don't know if you saw this clip that I posted, but Pierre Poilievre, who again, for those who don't know, is the leader of the Conservative Party, who's set to win the next federal election in Canada. He was in an interview, and the news anchor asked him if he asked him what he thought about Trump's executive order and if he was going to follow suit, kind of thing, in saying that they keep saying gender, not sex, and it's very irritating, but I hope that we can force that correction on them. Because I think, I mean, of course, I know what they mean, and they're using sex and gender interchangeably, but when you do that, you leave a lot of space for confusion and these weird convoluted arguments around gender identity, because and I think the gender identity ideologues do it on purpose. Again, maybe some of them are dumb, but I think they're intentionally feigning confusion and being like, but you know, what if you don't align with this gender? And the point is, like, I don't care. Who cares? Nobody cares. It doesn't make any difference to anyone in the world, certainly not in a legal context, how you feel about gender stereotypes and gender roles, or, you know, how you feel about the clothes you wear, whether or not you want to wear dresses, or you don't like masculinity, or you like went to ballet class when you were a kid instead of playing with trucks. It doesn't matter. You're male or female. That's it. That's the entire conversation. That's the entire debate. That's the entire argument. That's it. End of story. But he said, he's like, well, I mean, are you aware of any more genders? I'm aware of 2 genders. Are there any more than that? And the anchor was like, well, I know that I'm a man. I'm a cis man. Like, and Poilievre just kept kind of going on that track. Like, well, are there any other genders besides male and female? I don't know of any. Let me know if you know of any. And then concluded by kind of saying, just, you know, leave people alone, like get out of people's lives. He needs to work on his arguments, but, you know, he was pretty clear and unfazed by that question. And I know we all know what he meant. He was like, there's only 2 sexes. There's no in between. There's no non-binary. There's not a whole bunch of gender. So he has a bit of work to do. But, you know, I think this is it for Canada too. You know, like I've been thinking a lot about what the Trump presidency, what kind of impact that would have on Canada. And I think it's huge.
I did sometimes and think, well, people who are really dug in, people who are really far down the medicalization path, people who've trans their kids, how they must be feeling right now, and wondering what kind of cognitive dissonance they're experiencing. My thought is they're going to just dig in deeper and get more upset. But I think that this will halt some of the zeitgeist around the trans insanity. I think we're going to see fewer people wanting to be trans because it's not cool anymore. This group is reviled by the majority of Americans because they pushed it so far. Not you and I mean, I don't know where you used to be on it, but not like 20 years ago, I used to think, whatever, if you want to be trans, just be trans, thinking, okay, you're admitting, like, it's just like, okay, you're going to go to the bars and cross dress, or you're into thinking of yourself this way. And then when they start coming with the laws and the kids and insisting they were actually women, they became a reviled group. They pissed everybody off. I think that fewer people will want to join this group of people that are universally despised right now because of their actions, not because of who they innately are, but because of what they did to everybody else. Yeah, I feel for the children who've been transed. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I feel for the kids. I think, oh my gosh, what is that going to be like if you already have had your puberty blocked and you don't have normal genitalia, and now you're dependent on drugs forever, and it's the illusion that you can legally be the opposite sex has been removed. The lie is no longer being supported by the government. It must be really hard for them.
Yeah, I feel bad for the people who got transed as well. I think there's like a small contingent of TERFs who are like, no sympathy for people who went along with it. But, you know, I think there were a lot of like mentally ill, confused, traumatized people who were sold the idea of trans as a solution to what they were told was gender dysphoria, that may have been some kind of body dysmorphia. And often, again, you know, with the women in particular, connected to trauma like molestation, rape,
absolutely,
sexual abuse as kids. And I certainly feel awful for the kids. But I mean, it's the people, it's the, you know, progressives, like the urban elite, university educated progressives, all these Vancouverites, you know, everybody in Victoria, those kinds of places, all the leftists who canceled me, you know, the friends who canceled me over this. I'm just like, you stupid idiot. Like, you went along with something that was total BS. And it's over now. And, you know, what now? Like, what now? Are you going to apologize for pushing these harms on kids for the past decade? And for terrorizing women or contributing to these kinds of horrendous threats and sometimes violence and persecution and sometimes prosecution of women who said, you know, it's impossible for a man to become a woman?
No, they're not going to apologize. Some of them are going to dig in deeper. Others will pretend they never really believed it. Right. It's, I don't know. I mean, the pendulum swings. Who knows what will happen in 4 years either, which is why I really hope this administration rocks and that the United States becomes more prosperous and more peaceful and people are happy about the things the government is doing, because I don't want to see us flip back into another Democrat president right after this.
How could we? How could we go this far and then turn around and go back? Like, I think the reason that things got far is not just because of these phony activists and these crazy men, but because, and by crazy men, I mean the crazy men who dressed up as women and then insisted they be allowed into women's washrooms and prisons and transition houses.
But there are so many kids who've already been brainwashed into this. That's one of my fears. Of those people aren't going to just completely go away. All these teachers who are still pushing it will still be pushing it. Though more and more
I don't know if they can, though. Will they be able to in the States now that, you know, part of the executive order, it's really good. And I think for anyone who hasn't read it, please read it. I'm just going to post the link in the live chat right now. But, you know, one of the things, I'm going to read part of it. So,
it's so good.
Yeah, it is. It's really good. The executive order establishes government-wide the biological reality of two sexes and clearly defines male and female. All radical gender ideology, guidance, communication, policies, and forms are removed. Agencies will cease pretending that men can be women. Like, I feel like I wrote this, or maybe, you know.
Yeah, me too. This is the TERF manifesto.
Yeah. Thank you again, May Mailman. Agencies will cease pretending that men can be women and women can be men when enforcing laws that protect against sex discrimination. Woman means an adult human female.
Right.
The executive order directs that government identification like passports and personnel records will reflect biological reality and not self-assessed gender identity. I don't know. I don't know if I even expected that to happen.
That's huge.
I don't know if I expected
Visas,
any of this,
passports.
to be honest. Yeah.
It's going to be
all personnel records.
Yeah.
All government identification. The executive order ends the practice of housing men in women's prisons and taxpayer-funded transition, in quotations, for male prisoners. The executive order ends the forced recitation of preferred pronouns and protects Americans' First Amendment and statutory rights to recognize the biological and binary nature of sex. This includes protection in the workplace and in federal funded entities like schools. Sex shall refer to an individual's immutable biological classification as either male or female. Sex is not a synonym for and does not include the concept of gender identity.
She really hit it. She saw where where the weak spots might be, and she reinforced them.
Yeah.
I have heard multiple people, including my own son, say, oh, but there's backdoor fetal personhood in here where it says sex is determined at conception. And people are like, oh, you're supporting a right-wing anti-abortion executive order because it declares that life begins at conception, which brings me back to my eternal argument that as a pro-reproductive sovereignty woman, we have to stop pretending life doesn't begin at a conception. The issue, of course, the life of the human organism starts at fertilization, and that's when sex becomes an immutable characteristic. And we have to keep arguing that the issue is the government can't force one person to be an unwilling life support system for another person. Let's just get rid of the whole argument of that. But that I think that's a really cynical and stupid way to look at this executive order, to like this gotcha, see that it's actually this very anti-woman, anti-abortion screed, when I think it's beautiful. I'm thrilled that this got written.
Radically Fed Up in the live chat says, I agree with ML. I fear Trump's policies will be caught up in court and not actually change anything in liberal states. The next president could be Democrat. I mean, the next president could be Democrat, but what I was going to say earlier is that the population isn't going to backtrack on this. Like, yes, there are still going to be activists trying to push this, but the population isn't going to go backwards. And what the reason that this all got so far is because people went along with it not knowing the consequences, in part, you know, like in Canada, I talk about this all the time. In Canada, when Bill C-16 passed in 2017, Canada's gender identity legislation, most people in Canada didn't even know what it was. They didn't know that it was happening. And of course, it was framed as like the next civil rights frontier and essentially the same as protecting gays and lesbians from discrimination. So people didn't understand. I mean, gender identity is an incoherent concept. And I think it's incoherent intentionally. And if you ask people about it, they give you a word salad and they think they sound smart, I think. They think that, you know, because they're spouting kind of like academic jargon in a lot of cases. And the person listening might be like, okay, sort of out of confusion. But now we've seen where this has gone and can go and will go. And people aren't going to go backwards on that, I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. And I think the reasons I'm not too worried about it, a lot can change in 4 years, but one, like, I think it will be caught up in the courts, but I think that will just create more animosity toward the trans activists, because as they are backed into a corner, they're just going to get crazier. Look at Brianna Wu, who thinks he's coming across as reasonable, and he's just
everybody hates him.
Yeah, he's creepy.
Except for Barry Weiss.
People, I mean, he's literally repulsive to any woman with an intact creep detector. The guy is gross, and he's creating more TERFs than allies, right? Like he's counterproductive to his cause, and they all will be, because we know who they are. They're unhinged. They are irrational, and when you see them in the act of fighting, and usually fighting women, our side wins, you know, whenever it's out, like Kara Dansky has been saying forever, like if we can air this conversation in public, we will win. So that's
if you have the debate in public, we always win, because their arguments don't make any sense.
Oh, they're crazy.
And they're not scientific. So
the tide has turned. I don't think it's going to go back in their favor, just because of we know the way they operate, and they have no intention of not operating that way. They're going to continue to be unhinged and to try to bully and to threaten to kill themselves, and that's all they have. That's all they have, because they don't have reason on their side. And then two, the reason I'm not sure, I really don't think the Democrats will win the next election, is all the star power is in the Republicans right now. The Democrats don't have a star. For a long time, I thought you could make a star. I thought like the Hollywood machine could shine someone up and present that to us as a star. But Harris proved me wrong. Like they could not give her charisma. You either have it or you don't.
Yeah, they tried so hard to make her cool and trendy, and she's
not charismatic. The subset of the population that just regurgitates what they're fed got in line of like, we're with her, we love Harris, even though 2 weeks ago we didn't think we didn't like her, and no one voted for her in the primary when she ran. That subset of people who just do what they're told by the party pretended she had star power, but everyone knows she's not a star. You have to have charisma to have this position, and she doesn't have that. And when you don't have charisma, it's just an unlikely thing that you'll win. But Trump is surrounded by charismatic individuals who have star power, whether you like them or not. I mean, JD Vance is charismatic. His family is beautiful. Tulsi Gabbard is a star. Vivek Ramaswamy he has star power. Like, these people are engaging. They're they're entertaining. That is almost entirely on the Republican side now. Who do the Democrats have? AOC. She's polarizing. It pains me as a woman to say this, but she's literally shrill. It's painful to listen to her. Like her speaking voice is not refined. She's scolding. She's all the stereotypes of female authority figures that people bristle at, versus like Tulsi Gabbard, who's smooth and like has and confident and commanding and is a soldier. There's no comparison between the two. So I don't think any stars are rising right now on their side. The Republicans have a lot of star power and a lot of young star power around Trump. So I'm hoping for good things.
Well, and they embody America, right? They embody the American dream. I mean, JD Vance came from poverty. He, his mom was an addict. She was a single mom. His dad abandoned them. He had everything going against him. And now he's vice president of the United States of America. He made it. Like he suffered a lot of abuse and trauma when he was a kid. I mean, he's the story. He's the American story.
He's the American dream. Absolutely. Yeah. Down to his cross-cultural biracial marriage. He's the melting pot. Like he's America. And like of the dream of this country, of the ideals of this country. It's beautiful to see that. Again, as someone interested in this mythic story that we're living, and I have Jungian tendencies, I think that's important for America to have this beautiful young couple in the vice presidency, in the executive branch. It's heartening to have this charismatic, beautiful couple and have this man who is the American dream embodied second in line for the presidency. Who else is in there that I was thinking is just mythic? The whole thing feels mythic and Roman to me, of just these powerful people taking the reins versus this Politburo style bureaucracy of this shadowy, unknown figures that have been running the government while we've had a propped up corpse for the last 4 years in the presidency.
And that was just implanted into power by one another, not through a genuine democratic process, who were always elites, who never respected or listened to the American public, and who are just like so phony. It's just that, the climate's changed, and that started happening because of all the woke shit. People just got sick of it, and they wanted authenticity, and they rejected, fakeness, and that's what the Democratic Party embodies. AOC, completely. For example, she's so phony. Everything that comes out of her mouth, I think, is a lie. I mean, you can't really buy it.
The image, again, it's about the image. It's about the meme. Like that's the place these people hold is a mythic spot in our society. And that image of her at the Met Gala ball in her $100,000 dress, and another woman on her knees beside her looking like a handmaiden with AOC's face is out. The servant is masked. People will point out it wasn't the servant, that was the designer. But the meme and the image was so hypocritical and so repulsive. And that, to me, AOC will never shake that. She will never shake that image of, she pretends to be a populist. She pretends to be speaking truth to power. And really, she's just spouting the woke zombie propaganda, and she's accumulating wealth.
Well, and that weird photo shoot that she did of her pretending to cry at the border in her all-white outfit, that was disgusting. Completely staged. I mean, she thinks she's in a Hollywood movie. Like, she thinks she's an actress. Every time I see her talking or at a rally, she just seems like she thinks she's performing.
Well, she is.
She is performing, but you know what?
She absolutely is. And she's holding that role, and she has her acolytes. Like, she has people who are falling for it. Like, they're like Swifties, right? They're AOC stands. They love her. To me, it comes across as repulsive. Like, it feels so phony. It feels scolding. It feels not warm, not inviting, and not charismatic to me. But certain people like it. I think the vast majority of Americans don't like it. They don't like the way she comes across. She also, remember, she just said she was almost killed. She was worried she'd be murdered in the January 6th, whatever that was. It was so over the top. Yeah.
They're going to kill you, AOC. They're on your side.
She and the other women in the squad, and now the man in the squad, Sarah McBride, or whatever his name is, they're never going to back down on gender. They are dug in so deep. They can't, there's no way for them to turn on that issue, right? It would be so shocking to me. So they're going to continue beating that drum that drives people away rather than calls them to your party.
I mean, they might do something like this guy, Faye Johnstone, who's this horrifically ugly trans activist in Canada who came to protest me in 2016 when I spoke at the Senate when I testified against Bill C-16. He came to protest me, and he gets a ton of government grants, government funding for his trans activism. He starts these little agencies and consulting businesses that are funded by the government. And he even recently took the pronouns out of his bio. Like, it seems like he's leaning towards just identifying. He has an X on his passport. So I think he's moving away from identifying as a woman, but maybe, he's genderless, or he's non-binary, or I think they're trying to morph this into something else because they can tell now that nobody's going to go along with a male as a woman, at least anymore. So who knows what they'll try to move towards. I just think people are so done with it that it's not going to work.
I can't imagine it coming back. Watching so many of the ruling class men be like, no more of that, we're done with it, is heartening to me. I think they're going to continue the march toward transhumanism. The announcement today of the CEO of Oracle saying they're going to collaborate with Moderna to use AI to come up with a mRNA vaccine for every American based on our individual genome to prevent us all from getting cancer. That was pretty horrifying. Like, that transhumanism push will continue. The increasing organ harvesting will continue, the cyborgification and the brain chips and things. But I do think you're right that it's hard for me to see how this will gain traction again. And part of it is because I don't like that term alpha males. I'm going to say these heterosexual guys, these powerful.
I like alphas.
Yeah.
I genuinely do like alphas. So.
I guess, I just pissed about the whole concept of it, but I think, we've got powerful, straight, heterosexual men in power who just don't, it's like, okay, cross-dressers back in the closet. Like, they're not tolerating this anymore.
See you later, freak.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's less pressure to be kind, to accommodate people's gimp suit in Congress, right? It's like, keep your fetishes at home. And I mean, you did so much to educate Rogan about it. Oh man, my camera went out again. To hear Rogan tell JD Vance about autogynephilia was amazing, so right?
I was like, what is happening here?
Why is my camera out?
I don't know. I just wanted, uncompetitive said, Nicole Shanahan warned of premature use of mRNA tech for everything. Nicole Shanahan, I think, was on Meghan Kelly's show today. Did you listen? She was so good.
No.
She talked about the mRNA stuff, but I think she was also talking about chemtrails.
Oh, wow.
She was talking about God, I should have taken notes because I'm going to get I'm not a chemtrail expert, so not going to be able to explain this or get the language right. But she was talking about, modifying the weather through like spraying stuff in the sky. And Meghan was like, wait, what? What are you talking about? And then she went on to explain, and I was like, I think she's talking about chemtrails.
Wow. Like, I have to listen.
What people think. That's what people think well, I guess I think that's what some people think chemtrails are. Like they're modifying the weather on purpose. Is that true?
Yeah, there's just so many different things to pay attention to now. I can't.
There's a lot of conspiracy theorists I need to get caught up on for sure.
Yeah, I mean there is what's it called, HARP, it's a weather modification program on behalf of the U.S. government. They say they're doing it. They say they're researching it. There's cloud seeding and stuff.
Cloud seeding. Maybe that's what she was talking about. What's cloud? Somebody in the comments just said chemtrails are nonsense. Cloud seeding is not.
They put, I think it's often silver particles. They put particles in the upper atmosphere that attract water droplets to bring rain to a certain area. They do it sometimes here in New Mexico. Okay. I mean, clearly there's a lot of air pollution going on. Like there's a lot of what looks like airline exhaust in the sky, and that's probably not good for us. And maybe we need to start talking about air pollution again. And
I mean, I've always assumed that chemtrails are from planes. I just know that I know people who talk about chemtrails a lot, and they have given me the impression that they think that it's something about like modifying the weather and obviously maybe, I don't know, dousing people in. But I don't know if they were trying to brainwash us all, would we all be brainwashed?
I don't know what they with a capital T are doing, but I am enjoying this show. You're right. I'm feeling more optimistic now that we're talking. I loved.
Good.
The two things that I've loved the most this week, aside from the executive order, which I love so much, it's in another category, right? Like that is like, we won. This is amazing. And
it seemed like it. Don't you see? Didn't it seem like it happened in a flash? Like it was like we worked and fought and fought and fought and fought and fought, and it seemed like nothing was happening. And then all of a sudden, but that's kind of how it started too. Like it seemed like there was stuff under the surface for a long time, and then all of a sudden gender identity ideology was everywhere, and it was the law, and it was in schools, and blah 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 blah. But I mean, in this case, I think it really just was. Well, I guess it was a bunch of things. Obviously, it was like, I think the TERFs pushing and forcing this conversation for years and years and years, and trying to get people to understand why it mattered, and to, educate people about the men and women's prisons and things like that. And then backlash against woke and backlash against the urban elites. And the politicians on that, the populists actually understanding what the people wanted. Like people have told me, oh, I don't think Trump really cares about women's rights that much. Or I don't think he cares about, and I'm like, it doesn't really matter to me if he cares about transgenderism or women's rights all that much. He's doing it because he knows that's what the population wants, and because there's people who are around him who are telling him to do this. And it's not, maybe he does genuinely care about this issue, but I think it's more that he's working for the people, and he's listening to the people, and he knows he has his finger on the pulse of the cultural climate. Like that's what I think is happening here.
Give the people what they want, and he's following through on his campaign promises, unlike so many previous presidents. He's actually doing what he said he was going to do. So yeah, I'm thrilled about that, and I don't think this administration is going to back down on it. We'll see how it goes in the courts. The other two things that brought me joy was the night before the inauguration, the Village People playing on stage with Trump and the YMCA song. Like that. That was just like,
you can't accuse. I mean, of course they all are still trying. It's just that nobody's going for it. Like you can't accuse these people of being white supremacists or anti-LGBT we'll leave the T out because we've determined that that's non-existent, or being bigots and whatever, because they're clearly like, it's clearly a liberal party. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, and that is an iconic song. It's not just a gay anthem.
Yeah.
It's an American anthem. Everyone loves the YMCA. And the messaging of it, I was like, wow, like, okay, young man, young man, young man, over and over again. Like, there is this revitalization of young men in our country. And that is really important for a country to be healthy, to not have all our young men be demoralized and sick and endocrine deranged. I thought it was a real call out to that. It scares me a little bit that this could swing really far right, but I also I'm right now in this moment. I'm like, okay, that's amazing messaging. The meme of that's incredible. It's a gay anthem. It's a party anthem. It's fun. You have to be on so many soul suppressant drugs to not have some mood elevation when you hear YMCA, right? Like it's an upbeat song. It's such a fun song. And to have, I had no idea all those guys were still alive. I just from the history and the time that song came out, was kind of surprised that several of them hadn't died of AIDS. I mean, it was just so devastating to the gay community at that time. So it was exciting to know they were still alive and they still got it. They were rocking.
And that they joined with the Trump.
Yeah, totally.
The Trump parade.
Right. And maybe there is some mimetic messaging in the Young Men's Christian Association, what the YMCA means, but who cares? That's fun. That was like a really fun thing to watch that. And then the other thing that made me happy was when Trump was signing executive order after executive order after executive order. And then he looked up and said, "Oh, Susie, find out what the drones were." It's like, told his chief of staff in the middle of all his work, "Oh, go find out what the drones were." I'm like, yes, find out.
The executive orders were so good. Like, no more of these ridiculous, toxic wind energy farms.
Yeah.
Like, what a joke. Not just a joke, but so destructive. Like, you care about the environment, so you want to destroy the environment with wind farms that are terrorizing the whales and pouring toxins into the sea, and that still use cobalt from the Congo, which has destroyed the Congo and uses like slave labor to produce those lithium batteries. The ending of the frickin' EV mandates, which I was actually really terrified about, because Justin Trudeau, who's also, of course, on his way out, and I suspect Poilievre will get rid of these EV mandates as well. I was actually really concerned about that, because that's sort of an end to autonomy in a lot of ways. I mean, to tell people that they can't, I know that they claim that it's not about telling people that they can't drive gas-powered cars, but if you're not allowed to produce gas-powered cars, that's what's going on, and that's the direction that all of this was headed, to force people to only use EVs, which means, first of all, that most people aren't even going to be able to own their own vehicles. They're going to have to lease, because who could afford to buy an EV? You can afford to buy some old shitty car. Right. Like I did, my truck cost me $1,300. I can't afford to buy a new EV. So they're dependent in that way, and then dependent on the grid. If the grid goes down, then they can't go anywhere. It would be connected to these climate change lockdowns and these 15-minute cities, et cetera, et cetera.
And they're usually being powered by coal-fired power plants. That's what people are plugging into whenever they power them. It's such a Band-Aid. It's just a pacification of the masses to make them think that these wind farms and the electronic vehicles are actually going to solve the energy issues. The amount of fossil fuels necessary to make these giant windmills far exceed the amount of energy that they produce. Like that, the embodied energy in them is about equal to what they produce. And then if you put in all the energy that goes into shipping the giant parts, I see it all the time here. Every time I'm on the highway in New Mexico, these giant windmill blades that are they're like 3 18-wheelers long. They're just being towed. The whole highway is taken up by them. How much energy went into making that? How much energy is going into hauling it? How much energy is going into putting it up? And it's not going to last forever. I used to be so into the green technology. Phil and I put solar on our house long before anyone else was doing it. We paid all this money for it. And our solar panels broke after 25 years. Like the inverter broke, the solar panels broke, and now we're back to being on the grid. Like it lasted 25 years. It's not forever. And how much energy went into making those things?
Right. Yeah, I mean, gas stoves, gas cars. I mean, when I say that I like alpha males and the idea of alpha males, just to bring it, because I associate alpha males with men who can take care of themselves and their family, you know, men who are like meat eaters, who know how to hunt and, you know, have broad shoulders and can carry logs around and things like that. I mean, everybody likes that kind of man, right? I guess not everybody. Not if you live in Vancouver, you like the shrimpier, whiny kind of guy.
Right, who's all like, he thinks it's such a feminist act to offer that he'll stay home with the baby while you go to work when you're 6 weeks postpartum, because he's such a feminist.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be, I don't know. I mean, it's about health, and of course it's about sovereignty, you know, and about being a gentleman, also like being the kind of guy who's going to protect those who are weaker than him, women and children, and take care of his family. I think that's what an alpha male is in large part. I don't associate it with some, you know, dumb brute. But
I think it's good to have strong, decisive people in power. And I think that when we live in these times with a lot of really dangerous, unhinged men in power, it does comfort me to see this kind of male energy coming onto the stage. I've changed a lot. You know, I think that it's important for America to be strong in the world. I think this country's not perfect. I understand the criticisms, but this is the world we live in, which is brutal, and forces are always jostling for power. And to have America be strong is better for the whole free world. That's not a myth. It's true. And it's like, I mean, we're never going to have utopia. Every time people try to create it, it ends up being some hideous social experiment with mass death and starvation.
Right. And I mean, this, of course, remains to be seen, but I think Trump also committed to not being, you know, a war hawk, you know, not going out of his ways to start and fund wars. What else did he say? There was so much good stuff in there. Pulling out of the WHO.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I used to really love the World Health Organization. And now I just think it's corrupt and scary. And I think that they blew it so badly with COVID. And they're so fixated on sterilizing the masses and vaccination. And now they're promoting prostitution as valid job for women. I think the WHO is a lost cause. I'm glad we're pulling out of that.
Yeah. This is where all the women... I didn't introduce us or anything.
We were so excited.
Too excited. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. That helps support the channel and helps the video get into the algorithm. I feel like the algorithm's freed up a bit. I mean, everybody's been forced to jump ship. Like, I wasn't super pleased to see Jeff Bezos and Zuckerberg at the inauguration, because I don't like those guys and there's little to convince me otherwise. They've just had to change with the changing tides.
Oh, and Bezos's wife just looks so trashy. Why?
She looked awful. It wasn't even just about the bra. She looks so tacky and trashy.
Like, why would that messaging be put out there? It's yeah, that made no sense to me why she would participate in that and what that was about. I
I
think
mean,
Melania looked pretty badass. That was interesting. She was just, that was like, she's stepping into it. She was kind of phoning it in last time. Like, no, I'm not into this unpaid labor of the first lady role. I'm going to live in my penthouse in Manhattan, and my husband can go to work. Like, I actually kind of respected that. I'd never thought about the insult of the first lady role and all this work you're supposed to do for free that is just kind of drudgery, to have to go like to ribbon cuttings and listen to 6-year-olds try to read you a story, and I mean, stuff that she might not enjoy, right? I respected that, but I'm seeing her show up in a completely different way. She's pissed. They tried to murder her husband. She's showing up, and she was badass.
yeah, I mean, that was a very first lady hat that she wore. The whole outfit was, yeah, I don't know, Lauren Sanchez. I can't imagine what she was thinking. First of all, like, she wore a white lace bra to the inauguration under a blazer. And it wasn't just, I mean, I'm not against that look in general, but I think Meghan Kelly was right that it was totally inappropriate for the inauguration. And Meghan Kelly said she's the same age as her. So that's like late 40s. How old is Meghan Kelly?
Meghan Kelly's close to 50, I think.
Oh, she's 54.
Oh my gosh,
really good.
The same age, yeah.
Yeah. And like, you should know better. I mean, maybe if you're some stupid 20-year-old celebrity, you'd show up at the inauguration in a bra because you don't know. Yeah, you don't know that that's inappropriate, but she's 54. She should know how to dress appropriately and classily. But yeah, like, her face I found really disturbing. She's obviously gotten so much plastic surgery done. She has all this filler. I'm so tired of women and their lip filler. It looks so bad. There's so few women who can do it in a way that isn't obvious and ugly, and the rest of them just look so silly. Like, I'm not going to go so far to say that I'm totally against plastic surgery and, even Botox or whatever, filler. I think at this point people probably shouldn't get filler because we've discovered that it doesn't, like, people were sold the idea that it was temporary and it kind of just dissolved and disappeared in your face, but it doesn't. It just stays there forever, and sometimes it like moves around.
Yeah, it's creepy, and people shouldn't do it. It's just a manufactured trend that doesn't actually make you look better. Like, if you were transported into a different age, people would be repulsed by you because of it. It's not. I just don't think it's evolutionarily based. It's just a trend. But I can't believe people are injecting that stuff into their faces.
I mean, and it's most people seem to go overboard with it and look worse.
Did you? Yeah, like the lady in that Chimp Crazy series that I'm always trying to get you to watch because it's so amazing.
Oh, I did watch like the first couple, and then I stopped watching. But yeah, I might go back to it. I mean, I think that cat lady just died, the woman who got totally obsessed with filler and plastic surgery to the point where her face, I don't know if she was doing it on purpose or not, but she looked like a cat. She just died. But yeah, I don't know. I just think, I don't know. I just think it was so inappropriate. And I think Lauren Sanchez I'm talking about her again, like, it just seems like attention seeking to me. And so that's offensive because it's like, this isn't about you. And now everybody's talking about your boobs and like making jokes about Zuck looking at your boobs. And I don't even know that he was. I mean, you can sort of capture anybody in that position. But, if you look over, like, I don't know.
If you don't wear a shirt to the inauguration, people are going to look at your boobs. Male and female, everyone was looking at her boobs and saying, what the fuck? Why does she have her boobs out at the inauguration? Why didn't she put on a shirt? And to find out that she's 55 is really disappointing because it's easier to excuse that in someone under 30, but over 55, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, I don't know why she did that. I don't
Sorry, I
know.
can't stop touching my hair. I got my hair done today, everybody, for the first time in like, I think I've had my hair done since like October or something like that. And she blow dried it straight, and it's obviously distracted me. I'm not used to being able to put my fingers through my hair, and it looks weird to me. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought I guess I don't even know if I've ever watched an inauguration before. I never was really that into American politics until, I guess since around 2016 probably is when I started paying attention. But I just found the whole thing really nice and inspiring and kind of real. Like I didn't find it as phony and weird as I usually find American politics. I think as a Canadian, when we look at American politics and American news, it always seems Hollywood to us. It's always sort of over the top and a bit tabloidy and really shiny and, the flags everywhere and so on and so forth. But I mean, that stuff doesn't bother me anymore. I liked that Carrie Underwood sang America.
I really like that. I like that a lot. I was
with
like,
that,
I'm getting
even
all
though the
sappy.
music went out and she sang it a cappella anyway, and I thought that was really beautiful. I've always really liked that song, actually. Is it America the Brave?
America the Beautiful.
America the Beautiful.
It's a great song. It's just a hymn to the land.
I'm new to being an American.
America the Brave.
To catch up.
Yeah. It's it's not the national anthem, but it's a really beautiful song. That's a hymn to the land and talking about how beautiful the country is, and then talking about the just the spirit of the place. It's a nice song. I thought she did a great job. She's got a beautiful voice, and I loved it that she was nonplussed. She's like, all right, I don't have my music. I'll just sing it. I'll sing it. Yeah. No auto-tune. Yeah.
Greg in the live chat is asking, did you like John Fetterman's outfit? I don't really care. I mean, it was obviously really weird, but I don't know. I just thought maybe is John Fetterman like a little bit out of it or something? It was definitely weird to wear shorts, but it didn't offend me in the same way that the woman with all of her filler and her tits out did.
I love John Fetterman. I feel so weird of just my particular background and how like so few degrees of separation I have with so much of what's happening culturally. Like I'm literally from Butler, Pennsylvania, where the assassination attempt happened. Like that's my hometown. So they had all the Butler first responders come in, and I almost cried. It really was touching to me to see that. And so John Fetterman's from that same area. He was the mayor of Bradford, Pennsylvania, was completely dead, depressed, burnout little steel town village outside of Pittsburgh, really close to Pittsburgh. And he moved in to be the mayor with his amazing wife, who I think was a model in the past. And they wanted to make Bradford cool. And they bought an old loft for like $12,000. Like it was like Detroit. You could just buy these old industrial city houses for less than $20,000. They encouraged all these young families to come in. They had all their kids at home in Pennsylvania, which is a state without legal midwifery. So they're outlaws with their births and health activists. And then he rose to be a senator. And I think he's a real populist. I like it that he has a backbone. I like it that he sticks it to, he won't follow the party line on a lot of things. And I think it's a very Pittsburgh working class thing to wear your hoodie and your long shorts in the cold weather. I think he's kind of speaking to his demographic that he's always represented. It's a little weird to me. The reason
I just figured he didn't really think about it that much, or
no, he's
maybe for some reason he didn't have time to change.
No, it's his look. It's his outfit. He does it a lot. Like he wears that hoodie and the long shorts. And part of it is like, I'm not like those suits. I'm literally not. I'm not a suit. I'm a real person. It doesn't bother me. I mean, it breaches etiquette and protocol, but it doesn't bother me because it's not overtly sexual.
Or attention seeking.
Yeah, and
it's the opposite of attention seeking.
What's her first name? Sanchez Bezos'
Lauren.
wife? Lauren Sanchez. What she did was very similar to Phil Illey showing up in his fetish wear, right? In his cross-dressing thing. It's like, it's not just attention seeking, it's overtly sexual. And I think that's that's inappropriate. Like I mean, if we're gonna critique these men for shoving their, performing their sex act in our face with their cross-dressing, I think we should call her out on it. It was inappropriate for her to have her boobs on display like that. And it's not good for any women. Like, she didn't help the cause of women by doing that.
No, and I mean, it's not like, I don't think it's attractive. I don't think her look is attractive either. When I'm talking about all this plastic surgery and filler, it's not just because I don't think it's working. It's or whatever. I personally don't think it looks good. It's this thing where all of these women are trying to transform their faces into the same face. Like, you lose your specialness and your uniqueness and your character, and it's the Kim Kardashian sort of look that all of these young women are. I'm not necessarily talking about Lauren Sanchez anymore, but all the young women, the way that they are doing all their filler and everything, they all look like Kylie Jenner. And I just think, I'm like, you don't look better, you look like a freak. And it looks even worse in person. I think we're sort of used to seeing it on television, so we get used to it and we don't find it as strange. But when you see those people in person, they look really weird.
I thought it was upsetting. I think Bezos is upsetting, though. I found that whole having the billionaires there. I'm not going to say I like it, but I'm tired of the Democrats pretending their side isn't run by a bunch of billionaires as well. Yeah. As I've said before, they had J.B. Pritzker speak right after Bernie Sanders at the Democrat convention this summer. And his whole point in his speech was, we have real billionaires. Trump's he's not a top tier billionaire like we have. And I'm a real billionaire. And they're just as corrupt and run by class elites. Did the Democrats do anything in the last 4 years when they had the Senate, the House, and the presidency to work on campaign finance reform? No. Did they try to overturn Citizens United? No. They did nothing to stop the reality that the billionaires own our government. Because they're all feeding at the same trough. They don't actually want that not to be true, but they pretend they're righteous because their billionaires don't stand right behind them, right? They're somewhere else.
Yeah, like they attack the Republicans and the Liberal Party, because Canada just emulates whatever America does, but then pretends to hate America. The Liberal Party in Canada keeps doing that to the Conservatives, and Pierre Poilievre is like, oh, these guys just work for the rich. We're working for you. And it's like, nobody believes you anymore. Nobody buys this. So, like, it's not working. We all know that you're the elite just as much as anyone else is. And you're doing the opposite, actually, of working for the working class people. You're not listening to them at all, and you're mocking and insulting them and persecuting them and, throwing them in jail when they protest you.
Right. Yeah, it's an exciting time. And because I love America, I hope this administration rocks. I hope this is a great time for America. I keep thinking back to when Obama was elected and Rush Limbaugh was so ugly about it. And he kept saying, I hope he fails. I want him to fail. And I thought that was I didn't really like Rush Limbaugh. I thought he was a pretty gross character. But I think that is a profoundly un-American sentiment to want the administration to do poorly and be hated, because that means America won't be doing well. Like, if they fail, it's going to be because the economy is bad and people are suffering. Like, I want them to rock it. I want people to be happy to be in this country. I hope that Trump follows through on his promise to get rid of the personal income tax. If he gets rid of the personal income tax, he will go down in history as the most beloved president in the history of this country. So maybe that'll happen. That'd be so excited.
Yeah. And what did you think about Elon's
his salute? I don't know. I don't know what's really happening. And there's a little piece of me thinking, was he maybe signaling to to the tiny subset of actual
No, I
Nazis
think he was
that
just
like
being
Trump.
weird.
I
He's
think
just
that's true.
he's just a nerd. Like he's just a dork, and he was like, did you watch his whole video? Like he comes in and he's like pumping his arms, and like he looks like a really excited dork, and then he's trying to say, like I give my heart to you.
I give
Like he
my
goes
heart
like
to you.
this, and
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't buy that he's a freaking Nazi. Like that
No,
just
he's not
doesn't
a
track
Nazi.
with anything that he's ever done or said before.
The people calling him a Nazi this week are the same people who were calling him a Zionist last week.
Exactly. The same people who are now, because I tweeted about this, so I have all these like libtards in my mentions now calling me a Nazi, and I'm like, wait, am I a Zionist or am I a Nazi? Like, get it straight.
Exactly.
It just there's no evidence of Elon Musk being a Nazi at all. So this idea that they're trying to pin a Nazi salute on him doesn't make any sense. I mean, nothing.
Yeah.
I think that really speaks to the politics and ideology and behavior and brains of the libtarded, though, because I don't think when they've been calling TERF Nazis for the past 10 years too. And I'm just like, does that word mean anything to you? Does any word mean anything to you? They're not thinking about what a Nazi actually is.
Yeah.
They just use it as a, bigot, Nazi, racist, white supremacist, TERF, whatever it is. They just throw them all out there.
I think that the term is so meaningless now. Like the National Socialism that arose during the Weimar years in Germany has nothing to do with what we're experiencing right now. So the word Nazi should just be retired at this point. It's not appropriate. It's just a slur. It's just a way of yelling at people and demonizing them and dehumanizing them. I do think it's hysterical that literally is the same people who were throwing Zionist as a slur at him just 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, it is funny. I mean, I just did an interview with John Carpe, who is the founder and a lawyer with the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms in Canada, because he wrote a book about what Trudeau and his Liberal Party did during the COVID years, the authoritarianism. And a lot of the book is about the history of the National Socialist Party and the actual Nazis. And what Trudeau was doing was really taking a page out of their book. What he was doing was authoritarianism and fascism in a lot of ways. And, again, it makes it all the more amusing that the people who were opposed to the convoy and the people who hate the Conservative Party and the people, of course, who are calling Trump a fascist and pretending that they're scared for their lives now, they don't see fascism and authoritarianism when it's right in front of their faces, but they're the first to go around making those accusations and acting hysterical about it. I mean, these are the least marginalized people in the country too. These are like the AOCs of the world. These aren't the people who are, in danger of being, that bishop, did you watch the bishop who took the opportunity in front of Trump and JD and all of them to start talking about how now gay and I'm offended even that she would say the words gay and lesbian and trans kids.
I know.
As though that's a thing. Like, who are all these, like, there's no such thing as a trans kid, and then giving kids like sexualities and sexual orientations is also a bit weird to me. And then saying, all these kids now fear for their lives because of the Trump presidency. I mean, that's just bullshit. That's just not, there's no kid out there fearing for their life because Trump won the election. If they are, it's because adults told them they should fear for their lives, which is really kind of a cruel and abusive thing to do to a kid.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't like her. I thought it was pretty nauseating
or something like that.
And again, she had no charisma. They don't have any stars. All they have is finger wagging and scolding and shaming. That being said, you know, I see on my leftist, you know, my Democrat friends that I still have on Facebook, they love that bishop. They're all posting her picture, the hero for our times. And I don't think she converted anyone to her side. I don't think it was in terms if you're trying to evangelize and bring people to the truth. I don't think she did a good job. It came across again as scolding. It's church lady stuff. That's the issue, is the leftists turned into the church ladies, that Americans don't like people telling us what to do. We don't like being scolded and shamed. We don't like being forced to believe things we don't actually believe. And it was the leftists that took on that personality type, and now people are swinging the other way because of it. So that lady was just epitomized everything that people are rejecting through this election. But we have to remember, close to 50% of voters still voted for them. Like even though it was Harris and it was so crazy what happened, and I still can't even believe what we just lived through, and that we had a literally demented president, and they tried to shine up Harris and couldn't. They still, like, close to 50% of voters still went for this. Most of them clustered in the cities. I think that, yeah. And they love that lady. They think they still feel that way. They still like what she's selling.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, I think there's a lot of different reasons why people are stuck on the Democrats, or in Canada, why they're still, opposed to the Conservative Party, or, can't fathom voting Conservative, because for their whole lives they voted NDP or whatever it is. And it's like, well, that's a problem if you can't change your mind when things change. I also was addicted to voting for the NDP for many years, and then woke up and saw things changing, and saw what they were doing, and saw who they were working for, and listened to what the other parties were saying, and changed my mind accordingly. Right. That's what I think people who think do. They change their minds when they have new information. But there's all sorts of reasons, and a lot of people cite, like, the environment. It's not always only the trans kids. A lot of people say, I got some DM from some rando who was saying that I'd lost my mind and supporting Trump because, he was destroying environmental protections. Like, people believe all sorts of things. They believe that the Conservative Party and Trump's Republican Party are against the environment, and they don't believe in climate change. Right. They just think these people are capitalists, as though the other parties aren't capitalist, and as though there's any better alternative.
And they can't just step back and say, okay, all of those disposable masks that are now in the ocean did not help the environment, and that was their side that mandated that. They were all peeing out their Prozac and their birth control and their cross-sex hormones, and messing up all the fish and decimating the endocrine systems of all the other species and our own. They're not, they don't walk their talk. All they have is propaganda points that they believe in climate change, but it's like believing in the flying spaghetti monster or something. Like, it's just a false deity to them. Like, they don't even really understand what that means. They've just been told to believe in it. And I'm an environmentalist. Like, I weep about what's happening, the loss of the birds, just what's happening. I just don't.
I know the whale torture was a terrible realization. The wind turbines that were just, like, terrorizing and making the whales. I've loved whales since I was a little kid, and I'm, like, devastated at the idea of whales going extinct. And and I love the forest and the ocean and the mountains, and I
They don't
mean,
care about any of that. They care about this fictional, I don't say climate change is, I'm not going to say it's fictional, but they care about this meme of climate change they've been sold, which was used to completely hijack what was the environmental movement, which was what RFK was a huge part of. Like RFK got the PCBs out of the Hudson River. That's environmentalism. That's something we can all get behind, not this like specter of the climate that we can't actually control. They don't care about the plastics in the ocean. They don't care about the poisoning of the food supply. They don't care
recycling
about
is BS. Like
yeah,
all of their solutions are bullshit. Also, like
totally.
all of the solutions, it's like stop eating meat, get an EV,
Yeah,
recycle.
it's
It's
all
just it doesn't
manufactured.
do anything, and in lots of cases, it actually makes things worse.
Totally.
I think so much of it is just about they want to feel like they're good people and advertise to other people that they're good people, and the
Mm-hmm.
rest of us are bad people.
Yeah.
It's not really rooted in reality, in any
Science
material
deniers,
sense.
science deniers. I'm like, okay, say what you want, but Elon Musk is clearly not a science denier. You see his rocket? That's like you have to really, really be into a lot of science to even if he just commissioned it and didn't do the calculations, he's clearly really into science. He is not a science denier. Like it's such a meaningless phrase to throw out there.
And again, not rooted in science. I mean, I'm still reading RFK Jr.'s book about Anthony Fauci because it's a
Ugh.
very long book, and I usually read a
Mm-hmm.
few books at the same time, so I'll put one down and then read another. Um, I've also been reading Marcus Aurelius Meditations, and I just got a copy of Women Who Run with the Wolves in the mail because I last time I read it, I listened to it. I listened to the
Mm-hmm.
audiobook, which was very nice because she read it, but I'm rereading it again. But anyway, so I'm still working my way through that book, and the data shows that the countries that focused really hard on vaccinating their populations had more COVID cases and more COVID deaths than the countries that didn't. The
Mm-hmm.
vaccines made it worse. The vaccines made COVID worse.
Well, at least the correlation is
Not
there
only
for
did it, I
sure.
was always like, it didn't do anything, but it did do something. It made it worse. More people got COVID, and
Yeah.
I shouldn't be laughing, but like,
No, I was shouting that the entire time living here in New Mexico. Like we had the worst COVID statistics, and Florida rocked it, and they have the highest percentage of octogenarians and above, like of people over 80. And they smoked us. They did so much better than New Mexico in terms of preventing deaths of people who are actually at risk of dying of that respiratory illness or all respiratory illnesses. Even South Dakota, where Kristen Noem refused to implement any COVID restrictions at a state level, they have a very similar population to New Mexico, and they did so much better. So yeah, clearly all of these restrictions on our freedom and the forced vaccinations did not improve outcomes.
when they lied, they
Yeah,
manipulated the studies and the data
yeah.
and outright lied to the public
The
to
remember
force
that
them into
that
this.
mask study that everyone was
And
quoting that
more
was
people died
yeah,
from the heart attacks that were
yeah,
connected to the vaccine than people died of COVID, like in their studies and their trials or whatever. They knew
yeah.
that already.
Oh, they
They
totally
knew
knew. Even from the
that the
limited data that
risks
they
were
had.
worse.
I'm still so mad about it. We'll see, But did you see that Biden gave Anthony Fauci a preemptive pardon?
Yeah,
He
I mean,
pardoned
for
like
what?
he
I want
can't
to
he
know what he's
can't be
pardoned
tried or
for.
investigated. I
For
think
what?
though for yeah, I mean it's an admission of guilt, but I think that I think the states, the way our government system works, I think the states could still investigate Anthony Fauci, that they could still bring charges against him. I'm hoping that's the case. But that's another one of my fears right now with like the gender executive order, some of the other things. I'm worried there's going to be a lot of jostling between the states, and the states taking the feds to court over these different issues. But that's what makes America great, right? That we're a constitutional republic, and the states have rights, as that we have our federal rights, and then the states can do their thing. We'll see what's going to happen.
Well, it's going to be exciting, that's for sure.
I know it is exciting. I'm more excited now. I was just depressed sort of about the Oracle, AI, Moderna collaboration. Did you see that? The CEO of Oracle made an announcement that they just got all this money from both Biden and Trump to collaborate. And he said they're going to use artificial intelligence to make each American an mRNA vaccine, so we don't get cancer. We're all going to get an individual mRNA vaccine. I find that terrifying. I'm really upset that that's, that's blocking my joy. That's a huge buzzkill on this week that also happened. That's creepy. Oracle is creepy. AI is creepy. GMO tech and mRNA technology is creepy. And I don't like the merging of it and the federal government giving them money. I don't want a personalized mRNA vaccine from the government.
No, I mean, I feel like if they wanted to get rid of cancer, they'd stop putting toxins in all
they don't want to get rid of
products, and
cancer is a growth industry.
And plastic, and
cancer is a huge moneymaker. It's like it's a growth industry.
It's awful because I just feel like it's also unavoidable, and you just kind of stress about. I mean, I try.
What kind of cancer am I going to get?
Well, about what products you're using, and there's always something new. It's like, oh, okay, I can't, use this face powder that has talc in it or whatever. I mean, that all information is all good, or there's this in your shampoo, and actually that's going to cause cancer, and like this in your food, and we're leaching we all used microwaves when we were kids. I mean, I haven't used a microwave in a million years. I think microwaves are disgusting, but like when I was a kid, I put everything in the microwave. I'm sure in plastic. I don't know how much plastic there is in my body now. Like it's probably all just like, oh God, like what do you even do? And then there, these people are hyper obsessed with alcohol as the thing that's causing cancer. And I'm like, I feel like there's a lot worse things out there than wine in terms of carcinogens. Like, Jesus Christ.
I know, right? They want everyone on weed instead of alcohol right now. It's pretty clear that the forces that be are, moving on to new. They want everyone taking psilocybin.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're all going to die of something, but I think if we had a true environmental movement, it would be focused on these things of just the pollution. Environmentalism used to be about fighting pollution, not trying to control the global climate.
Yeah, clean air.
Yeah.
Clean oceans.
Yes, exactly. I'm down with that, except I'm not sure I trust the government to do anything about it anymore, because apparently I'm a small government conservative now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to. I know that you're not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of dying.
Well, I am at peace with the fact I'm going to die.
I'm not. That's why I'm reading meditations. I feel like all he keeps saying over and over is like, you're gonna die, and your life is short.
Yeah.
You're going to die soon, and everybody's going to forget about you, and then you're going to be nothing. And I'm like, is this supposed to be comforting? I don't feel comforted.
Yeah. No, but it's inevitable. Being afraid of death is the root of all anxiety.
Right? Yeah, I guess because you start having anxiety about wasting your life because of the death thing. Like, I think I'm not a high anxiety person, but I think when I do get anxiety, it's like, am I doing life wrong? Like, am I missing? Like, I mean, and I like my life, but I'm like, am I supposed to be doing something more? It starts to feel like it's passing you by too quickly. And like, I still haven't written my book. I'm such a loser, like that kind of stuff. You start comparing yourself to what other people have done in their lives and accomplished. And you're like, oh, I should be working harder, or I should be accomplishing more. All these people got invited to the ball and I didn't get invited. Why do I suck so bad? Like, how come I can't make influencer videos like that lady over there? Or like, all that kind of thing. I think that's all connected to death, right? And the fear of like, am I wasting my life
Yeah.
somehow.
Well, it's good that you're reading the Stoics.
Yeah. I've meant to for a while now, and I think I felt inspired to read it recently because I feel like I dealt with some relationship slash emotional issues badly. And I was like, you need to start operating with more grace and less kind of ego. So I think it's helpful in that way. I don't agree with everything he says. I don't want to be nice to everybody all the time at all. But
Yeah.
I think it's fine to kind of be mean. Like, not, I don't mean like go out of your way to be mean to random people, but if somebody disrespects you, then yeah, I'm kind of going to be mean or make them feel bad or like revert back to my like my mean girl era where I socially ostracize you. Like, don't fuck with me. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe I should have more humility. But like, I see people who are just nice to everybody all the time, and they seem very anxious and to have low self-esteem. And I just feel like if somebody disrespects you, then get out of my life, and you're going to experience social punishment for doing that. And
I think that's your constitution. I don't think you can change that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But in general, I like the book, and I find it helpful. And I think like, I think I'm unhappy with myself when I react in rash and emotional ways, especially when it's rooted to like my ego being hurt. I think that's a really bad time to react to anything. So that's what I've sort of been working on.
I should read it again. I haven't read Marcus Aurelius. I read it in high school when I was trying to be an intellectual in this little steel town. I'm going to get out of this steel town and go to college. I think most of it was lost on me because I was like 16. So I should read it again and see.
It's not lost on me when you are like, fuck, I'm doing it wrong. Like, I think you have to realize, like, you're like, oh, okay, I can operate with sort of more grace and humility in these situations. I think when you're a teenager, the idea of operating with grace and humility doesn't like exist to you.
No.
Like, I wouldn't even understand what those words meant.
I was just like checking it off. I literally had this list, this like booklet that the librarian had given me that was like recommended reading for the college-bound student. And I was literally just checking off every book in there. It was like, okay, done with that one, on to this one, And I should read it again because I'm sure it influenced me on some level, but it didn't really stick with me. It was more just yes, I have read the classics. Yeah. But I'm glad that people are getting into Stoicism. I think Stoicism is a wonderful antidote to how soft and weak and victimized the culture got, which really concerns me because I'm very, very worried about the future with how, just how we couldn't raise an army right now if we tried because our youth are so soft and complaining about everything, and they all think they have psych disorders and they're all endocrine deranged. So I'm glad that so many young people are getting into the Stoics, and so many of the influencers are promoting Stoicism right now. Like, suck it up and live your life, and
Yeah, I know. Well, and I think a lot of their anxiety comes from just spending too much time online. Like, I think it would make me anxious if I was on TikTok for 8 hours a day.
They're being marketed all these new forms of dysphoria. Like, I had someone come and tell me again they had a new kind of dysphoria. Actually, I heard of like 3 new forms of disorders and dysphorias this week that I hadn't heard of. Like, hot new disorder just dropped. Let's all get it. And I was thinking, this is so crazy. Like, no one talked about like Normandy invasion dysphoria. like being drafted dysphoria.
Went to war at 16 dysphoria.
Exactly.
This doesn't feel right to me.
Exactly. I'm just I'm real bummed out, and I'm having negative feelings, and it's just I'm really worried about how soft the youth are right now, and how and how eager to be mentally ill so many of them are,
I was
like,
really hoping for a TikTok ban. I know I shouldn't
I
say
know.
that
Yeah.
because, like, obviously I don't think that it's good for the government to be able to just ban social media apps or whatever. But in terms of my dislike for TikTok and the fact that I think that it's toxic and that it's the app of the youth and it's destroying their brains and turning all the girls into wannabe prostitutes and the
Yeah.
boys into porn addicts and so on and so forth, and turning them trans and whatever. I just think it really should disappear from the planet.
I think it's done more harm than good for sure. And it's
Sure.
clearly
No question.
addictive. Yeah. All right. Well, I can't wait to see what happens next in this unfolding story of America. And yeah, exciting.
MP says the problem with Aurelius is that while he was busy writing, his wife was banging centurions.
Oh,
What does that mean? That sounds great. When I was like, I don't know anything about this, but way to go. Sorry.
We have to let the art.
Like that is she's living the dream. Like you get to work, you marry a nice man who's working, and you get to do whatever you want. That's my feminism. Sorry, everybody. That's always been my dream. I always wanted to be able to, of course I don't want my partner sleeping around or cheating or watching pornography or doing anything disgusting like that, but I would like to be free to do whatever I want to do.
Yeah, well, maybe the book on Stoicism will help you work on that.
I mean, I don't actually do it. I'm actually very loyal, but in my dreams, what I want is like a part-time, long-distance boyfriend who I see like 1 week out of the month, and the rest of the time I get to live my life free, wild and free, run with the wolves, as it were.
I would love also to see us to be able to separate the art from the artist again, and not diss these amazing works of genius that have come through the human collective consciousness through an individual, just because that individual had issues, right? I remember Camille Paglia talking about that, like back when she wrote Sexual Personae and she was on her press junket, and she said that she had all these women in her community saying she couldn't like the Rolling Stones because they were all a bunch of assholes who were womanizers. And she's like, I can like the art, right? So not to compare Marcus Aurelius to Mick Jagger, but it's the same thing. Like there's this amazing work of art, this important piece of literature that has been with us through humanity. And who cares what his wife was doing? Let's read this book and get what we need from it.
I always have rejected that. I mean, I've been a hip hop fan since I was like 13 years old. So imagine
there you go,
being like a raging feminist and also being like, I love Too Short. I just was like, I love music. I'm not going to reject. Music brings so much joy into our lives. I'm not rejecting music because the individual was bad, or even because there's bad words. I mean, I don't even want to bother trying to justify it. I'm listening to music. It makes me happy. Doesn't mean that I support pimps in real life.
That's good to know. Good to know.
Anyway. Okay. It's been an hour and a half. I know you probably have to get going. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This is Where Are All the Women? I'm Meghan Murphy. This is Mary Lou Singleton. We're here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mexico time, which is 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I have such a hard time with the time zones, man.
I know, right?
I just can never get, I mean, they're changing all the time, so it's confusing.
That too.
Mary Lou is at enchantedfamilymedicine.com and on Substack at Mary Lou Singleton and on X at Singleton _ML.
ML _Singleton.
I did that last week.
I know.
Now I think I got it a couple times and then I started reversing it.
Maybe I should have done that. It clearly is more catchy.
I don't know why my brain's done this. Okay, it's ML _Singleton. And I'm on Substack at Meghan Murphy, or you can find me at www.meganmurphy.ca. And I'm not saying the www part because I'm old and out of touch. It's because if you don't type it in, it doesn't redirect to my Substack for some reason that I don't understand. And my podcast is The Same Drugs, which I hope that you'll find on Spotify and follow. I think I'm interviewing Karadansky tomorrow about the executive order, so we can learn more about how that will play out and if there's anything that anyone can do to kind of challenge it or whatever.
Yeah, Kara has some star power and she might rise up in the Democratic ranks. I wouldn't be surprised if she's going to run for office over the next few years. And she's so brilliant. I love her legal mind. So that's exciting.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to talking with her about this for sure. Yeah, everyone have a great night. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Bye, Mary Lou.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.